So I was gonna do this review like wearing a duvet as like a coat in tribute to what I think is maybe the best costume of 2015 so far, which is when Kumiko gets this like a hotel duvet and just cuts a hole in it and just wears that shit like a DIY poncho. But it's really warm outside today. It's like the one day I just wanted it to be cold. Stupid weather.
That darn movie show.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's Clarice here. Hope you are having an awesome day and that it is sunny wherever you are, unless you do want to be wearing a duvet coat. So yeah, I'm a pretty huge fan of the Coen Brothers. I mean, who isn't? So I was naturally pretty intrigued when I read about this movie, Kumiko the Treasure Hunter, which is based off of an urban legend surrounding Fargo. So the sort of real story behind this movie is basically that the body of a Japanese woman was once found on the road between Minneapolis in Minnesota and Fargo in North Dakota. And what had happened is that this woman had come from Tokyo basically to kill herself. It's a really sad story because she'd come to this area because it reminded her of this love affair that she once had with an American businessman. And I guess maybe, I don't know, she like wanted to sort of relive those memories before she left this world. But the really like strange part of the story is that the police, through some sort of misinterpretation, she didn't speak English, the police didn't speak Japanese, they somehow thought that she had come to the area to find this suitcase of ransom money that in the movie Fargo, Steve Buscemi's character buries in the snow on sort of roadside between, I think, Minneapolis and Fargo. And so Kumiko the Treasure Hunter basically sort of builds on that urban legend and I guess treats it as reality, but it builds this narrative of where she finds this VHS of Fargo by following this map that she's created, and she finds it in this cave off of the Japanese shoreline. So it's given this really sort of mythical, fantastical quality to it, and I think it's beautiful. I think this is a really, really beautiful movie. And I did sort of start thinking about how this movie sort of reflected on the sort of true events behind the story, and you know how it reflected on this woman, Tatako Kanishi, and whether maybe, I don't know, it was disrespectful to her memory. And I don't know, obviously we'll never know what she would have thought about this movie, about this story, and I can only speak about it from a completely subjective perspective. But I don't know, I think I sort of personally feel that there's something really noble about this story, and it's quite a sort of beautiful, moving tribute to this woman, even if it does sort of rewrite her narrative. I mean, this is a woman who felt like her life had no meaning and no purpose, and I think this movie would have gone to prove that she was the hero of her own story in a way that her mind would never been capable of believing. Because this movie, I mean, I don't know, this movie is funny and sweet and it's warm and it has this adorable pet bunny Bunzo in it, and she feeds it noodles and it's just like the cutest thing of all time. But yeah, at the same time, this movie is deeply touching because it's a movie about loneliness, about Tatako Kanishi's loneliness, and about loneliness in all of its different forms. So yeah, even in this sort of narrative with all these fantastical elements, you know, at the core of it, there's this very lonely character that's been very beautifully written and very beautifully presented. And I think it's all about that feeling of distance, of this feeling that she can't connect with the world. And yeah, in many ways her loneliness is self-imposed because she doesn't talk to her co-workers, she doesn't go on dates, she refuses to live with her mother, but I think she makes herself a social exile because that is how she feels inside. You know, she feels like this person who is a complete outsider because she's 28 and she isn't married and doesn't have kids. So because she feels so different, she sort of tries to seek this great destiny for herself, to try and give her life a meaning that isn't in line with everyone else's lives. So yeah, she creates this destiny of finding this suitcase of money, and she's got this notebook with all these charts and numbers. It's all because she's trying to find this meaning in life, and I think this movie asks a really interesting question of whether it's better to find meaning in something false than to know that there is no meaning. And I think in that way it still sort of deals with all the same emotions that you would have gone through if you just told the real story of Tatako Kanishi, but it just sort of translates it into this slightly different narrative, into this sort of fairy tale. And I think what's particularly clever about this movie is that it extends those themes of loneliness beyond just Kumiko to all of the characters around her. So you've got like her mother who keeps just finding her constantly and being like, please just come live with me. And yeah, and I think you sort of get the feeling she's like that because, you know, she just wants someone around again because her daughter's left home. And yet at one point Kumiko meets with this older American woman who sort of very briefly takes her in and just starts treating her like a daughter, and you find out later it's because her son has left home and never visits anymore. And yeah, and you even at one point have a deaf taxi driver who I guess that's a sort of different perception of isolation in a way. So yeah, I think this is a really interesting watch, not just because of this sort of weird, fascinating story and this connection to the Coen Brothers, but also because of the way it sort of explores these themes of isolation. And also what I really loved about this movie is the soundtrack by the Octopus Project, because I think there is sort of a danger in this movie because it's got all these sweet and funny elements like Bunzo the rabbit. There is always this slight danger that it's going to turn into this sort of sickly sort of Sundance movie, you know, like yay, heartwarming, uplifting, yeah. But yeah, I think the soundtrack is incredible because it almost plays like a horror movie. It's got all these very heavy synths, and you know, it's almost at moments a little bit unpleasant to listen to because it's got that very sort of suffocating feeling to it. It's incredible because it creates that sort of feeling of isolation from the world because it just sort of surrounds you and blocks you off from everything, and you just feel really trapped. And yeah, so I think that was a really smart decision to sort of create that type of soundtrack because it just stops it from being too sort of cutesy at any moment, and it sort of emphasizes that sort of running theme of loneliness and isolation. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this movie. I think even if you did read the plot and think, oh, this sounds a little cutesy, but yeah, if you have had a chance to see Kumiko the Treasure Hunter, I would love to know what you guys thought about it. So you can comment down below or you can tweet at me here and yeah, let me know your thoughts. And also, if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more, take a moment just to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys soon with some more words about movies. Bye!